Fasting. I feel flushed. Part 5, why you can't lose weight. Hello everyone. My name is Persohn. I am so glad you're back with us today. What an interesting and slightly disgusting topic we've got today to talk about. We're in this whole fasting, weight loss kind of discussion, and this is the 5th in a series of videos. I did 4 the other day. Oh man, that was a lot of work. But we'll spend a little more time on this very interesting topic today, and I'm pretty sure it will, some of you will enjoy it, others will say, why bother, it doesn't affect me. Many years ago, I learned a lot from the mango man, Dr. Wayne Pickering. The Pickering mangoes named after him, actually. And he is a trainer, but he's also a motivational speaker, a strict vegan. I'm not a vegan at all. I'm on the other side of this. Nevertheless, I had a lot to learn. I learned about the 7 stages of disease from him. Let's see if I can quote them. Enervation, intoxication, irritation, inflammation, induration, ulceration, fungation. Boy, I still remember that after all of those years. And he said that one time he was doing a motivational speech. He wasn't talking about diet and health necessarily. And he talked about his guaranteed recipe for helping you visit the toilet successfully. It's guaranteed laxative recipe. And he said this has happened repeatedly to him. He said that people don't often take notes about what they're saying, what he's saying, he enjoys it, and so on and so forth. But when it gets to this part of the topic, he said you can't believe how many people go and rush for a piece of paper and just try to record the ingredients of his recipe. It's like, yeah, this is a very, very relevant topic. And it's particularly relevant when you're fasting and when you're trying to lose weight. And so what we're going to do, we're not going to do a lot of technical here. This is after years of fasting and learning and studying the stuff that I know that might help you. And if you've got some questions, come back to me and I'll see if I can send you some study links or so on to help you with this. So this whole question of diet, particularly what happens in the bowels, going to the toilet, and all of that, this is all very much related to weight loss. And it's related to weight loss on many different areas. Oftentimes when your digestion is slow, when your body isn't cleaning out, you eat to help yourself feel better. And I'll explain why that is in a moment, or I'll try to explain. And of course, that's a problem. A lot of people have just a terrible problem with consistently evacuating, consistently doing that. Isn't this a disgusting topic? But come on now, you have to do it just like everybody else, okay? So maybe we can learn something. One of the questions people ask me about fasting is, what happens when you fast? Do you stop going to the bathroom? Well, certainly you keep losing water, as we talked about, but this can vary. Sometimes during a fast, things just keep on going normally for days, and you think, that's really interesting. Where did it all come from? Otherwise, it might stop in a day or two. Well, what's going on here? I just don't understand. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at a picture, an image. I'll talk you through it. We'll try to explain some things and give you a sense of what might happen. Now, you know, if you also wonder about this question here, you know, there are many people, and I hope nobody in my audience, who have to have a laxative every single day or their body shuts down. And they say, oh, well, that's just the way that I am. Have you ever asked yourself why that even should be? Why? That just seems very abnormal. It just seems like there's something wrong, that you'd need this drug to help your body do something like that. What's going on? What's gone bad? Okay. Now there's also people, and maybe there's a relationship, that are constantly having to consume antacids. These two are related, by the way. The antacid production means you're no longer digesting protein properly, and that slows down the whole digestive process, and also means that you're going to be protein deficient. So that's really fascinating. That's another topic. It's really touchy, by the way, really touchy. You talk to people about that. They say, oh, if I don't have my antacids, you know, I'm in misery. That might be my next video. We might talk a little more about it. When you're fasting, of course, that all shuts down. When you're fasting, your stomach shuts down, everything slows down, and so on. Let's just, before we have a look at our images, let's just talk about that for a moment. When you start to fast, so let's just say you've decided that you're going to start fasting on Monday. You have just a light meal on Sunday, and you just shut yourself down. You drop off the sugar. You start fasting Monday. Maybe your body cleans itself out on the Monday morning, maybe Tuesday as well. Who knows? But you're sort of shutting down. Sometime later on in the Monday, you experience the switch over where your body starts getting rid of fluid. And we talked about that, how good you feel once the fluid goes. I'm asking you, why do you carry all that fluid anyways? Well, you carry it because of sugar, you carry it because of salt, you carry it because of excess sodium, excess insulin, all of that. Okay, so once the sugar drops and those things drop, your fluid goes, you think, I just feel like a brand new person. You've only lost about 3 kilos of fluid, but this is a really interesting topic. Okay, anyways, you're fasting. But then your body will just stop at some time into a fast, 3rd day, 4th day. You might just stop and you're no longer cleaning out. You might say, okay, well, that's fine. Now, there's 2 things happening here. One is you've pretty much eliminated a lot of what is in the colon, pretty much moved on. The other thing is, though, when you eat something, you stimulate this whole action of digestion overall. So by not eating, that stimulation process goes away. So there's sort of 2 things, because you'll notice, let's say that you start fasting, that you start eating again on a Friday, and then Saturday morning things are back to normal again, or Saturday sometime. You say, well, why is that? Well, what you ate kicked off that whole process, and your entire GI tract, gastrointestinal tract, started to function again. Here's a thing about fasting that's just so wonderful. When you stop eating, parts of your body that have had to be fully involved with dealing with food get a chance to fix themselves. Didn't talk about that in the past, did we? But think about that, right? Think about the fact that I haven't put something in my stomach now for like 3 days. Now I have, but just you're fasting. What's your stomach doing? Well, it's shutting down, it's healing itself, it's fixing the stomach liners, it's doing all of that, it's normalizing things, waiting for your next meal. What about the upper intestine? Same thing. There's just nothing been added. What am I going to do? Clean up. Well, you know what that's like. You know the last day of school when you're not learning anything, there's nothing to teach, or whatever. What do? They clean the classroom. Okay, you kind of get that, don't you? You got a sense of what's going on. Things are a bit quiet at home, but you're really energetic. There's no visitors, no family, whatever. What are you going to do? You got to clean up. My wife has completely restructured the office here, and she's done a good job. It's like, oh, don't touch my stuff, but she's done a good job. We've got our 2 desks set up here together. She had a bit of time, got it nailed down, really, really nice. Well, think about your body. No food going in there. It just takes a chance to rest. We better get on to our pictures before you say, just clickbait, Al. We're not going to do this today. So here is the colon. Have you seen this before? Yes. Let's explain what's going on here, okay? So got my little pen here. The food that you eat, we're only going to look at the last process. Of course comes, you chew it, that's the beginning of digestion, ends up in the stomach, and then it goes through this marvelous thing called the small intestine where it extracts nutrients, okay? But we're talking about getting rid of those things as we don't need them. And I won't do all the detail here, but just enough to get people thinking about things. Okay, so the small intestine joins the large intestine and down here, and then food that you eat comes kind of like a slurry. It's like a muddy, sloppy, kind of wet, nasty stuff. And it stays in what's called the ascending colon. This is the ascending colon because it's obviously ascending. Things are going up, okay? And so it stays in the ascending colon. And what happens to it? Well, it's solidified slowly. Excess moisture is removed, and a few nutrients are removed, and it's kind of squished along here just like a tube of toothpaste, okay? And yeah, no, you're never going to look at toothpaste in the same way. And then it comes along here, and it moves this way, okay? Now, this is moving from right to left, okay? So it moves this way in what's called the transverse colon, okay? So just remember that this image here is the right over here, right, and over here is your left. And I'm just learning how to get my pen to work right. It's an odd sort of feeling here, okay? And then as this more solidified matter, right, comes down here and it accumulates in this part of the body here. And this is called obviously the descending colon, right? If the other one on the right-hand side is the ascending colon, the one on the left-hand side is the descending colon. And so what happens here is the last bit of work is done. Now, what really takes place here is very, very interesting. If this is, oh, come on now. Oh, I see, I pushed a button on my pen. So if you are a bit slow and your body isn't cleaning out, you have an accumulation here, and that's really uncomfortable. And that's that constipated feeling. Something else happens here, and that's really also, there's a lot going on here. And then when the process is ready to go and you're ready to visit that special little place all of those things get transferred to this, and again, this is now moving from left to right to the center, and this is called the sigmoid colon. Sigmoid. And then, of course, you get rid of it right down here. Once the food appears here, the digested food, no longer food, it's gone, and you lose it. So what happens here if you are in trouble and things are slow? What really takes place? What's really going, first of all, what really helps this process to work really well? If what you eat is too dry, you'll find your body will take fluid from it, a lot of fluid, and more fluid, and more fluid, and it will become much harder to move, and it'll accumulate, and that'll be a problem. So for some people, that's an issue. Well, when your salt balance is out, you have a problem with overall fluid in your body, and that's an issue. Now, you might have noticed that there's times where things aren't working as well as you want, and you get a bit of a sore throat. And you think, why do I have a sore throat? Why do I feel so uncomfortable? Why do I always want to eat something? What's really going on? Well, while ever what's going on here waits in the descending colon, while it waits in the descending colon, and then it waits longer before it gets the transverse colon, your body is actually processing it. It's actually attempting to take excess fluid or extra fluid from what's waiting here. And that's just part of what's going on. And for some people, this is really critical because that fluid is not particularly nice stuff, and it's quite toxic. And you think, oh, that's really nasty. Hence, you get the coated tongue, you get the sore throat, you get all of that. And you think, oh, man. You'll notice that depending on where you are, what your body's like, your pits might start to smell. Isn't this a disgusting topic? Truthfully. Truly, it's a disgusting topic, isn't it? But once you understand that this is just what's going on in my body, you start thinking, let me work with my body instead of against my body. Particularly, you notice these things when you fast, you pay a bit of attention to what's going on. You think, really interesting. And by the way, send me questions, happy to address them. Not very technical today, just explaining what's going on and trying to get you to think about things. Okay, back to our pictures. So all of these things here, get my pen. There's so much. Technology is wonderful here. And this isn't where I'm going to be. You have to be on this screen. And so all of this process here occurs, your body takes excess fluid out, and that can be over a period of days, 1 or 2 days, until finally everything moves on. Now, when you're fasting, this whole thing tends to slow right down. It's stimulated, this action is stimulated by food you're eating, as I already stated. Now, the action that causes this to happen, that toothpaste tube kind of action that causes the flow of toxins out of your system, is called peristaltic action. Peristaltic. And that is, that's the technical term for what's going on. Okay? So let's just have a look at this here. Your small intestine extracts nutrients. The small intestine then has a juncture here into the large intestine. Food comes up in the upper colon, the ascending colon moves across the transverse colon over time and down to the descending and then the sigmoid. How long can this take? Okay, so what is a good thing to do about this? Or a good thing to do about this is to try to measure how long it takes from when you eat something until when that same thing is moved through your system. That's a good measurement. We don't all need to do that, but this is a very, very important thing to do. This should take about 2 to 3 days, okay? 2 to 3 days. Now, how do you measure that? Is it possible to measure that? And yes, there's a little thing you can do. You can get a can of canned corn, the little corn niblets, okay? And eat a couple tablespoons of that. This is a disgusting topic. Truly, it's disgusting. But we're talking about fasting. We're talking about weight loss. We're talking about health, all right? And nothing's more important than being sure the whole mechanism works. And then you can find out and you can observe and find out how long it takes for that to go through your system. Now, you need to do that about 3 or 4 times, right? Just let it go through, and then maybe the following week do that again and get kind of an average, because sometimes food will run through your system very quickly, other times slowly. But you want about 2 days. So now think about the fact that you started to fast on a Monday. The food that you've eaten on Friday and Saturday has to work through your system slowly. It's still in there. You're still getting nutrients from it. And that's really, really interesting. Okay, so all of that together. Now, having said that, what causes a lot of our digestive problems. What's going on? I'm going to list them. What's my time like? Do you mind if I continue? I think some of us are saying, yeah, I don't want to ever hear about this topic again, Al, and some maybe it applies to you. Okay, the first thing that happens is food that's not chewed properly has to be broken down somewhere else in the body. Okay, that's really interesting. So, you know the whole chew your food 32 times? There's a lot to be said for that, okay? Enjoy your food. This is where you enjoy it. You don't enjoy it anywhere else, right? Just really enjoy it in your mouth, take your time, enjoy. Okay, so this is one important thing to do, okay? The next problem, the next thing that we have to consider, and again, we're not just talking about regularity, we're talking about fasting and so on and so forth, is some food simply does not digest. It never does. It goes through the system and pretty much in the same form as to where it leaves. Remember I talked about those corn kernels? Well, vegetable fibers don't digest. A lot of grain fibers don't digest. They just run all the way through your system and they're totally useless. The problem with that is a lot of them, at times they'll ball up and they get caught and they'll slow down your digestion. You say, I thought that fiber was to help my digestion. Usually it doesn't. Right? That's a big myth. That's something to really think about. Right? Now, a few weeks, last year sometime, I put a link below one of my fasting videos wherein Dr. Ken Berry said something very interesting. He said that he spoke to a doctor who, and he's done this, he's confirmed this several times, that where they look at what appears in a colostomy bag. What's a colostomy bag? Let's go back to my pictures here. Sometimes when you have a surgery or whatever, your bowels will basically shut down, or they have to be, or maybe after an injury or whatever, sometimes there's a bag inserted, and the bag is inserted here, right? And the colon is shut down or closed off so it can heal, and the bag sits outside. It's a nasty thing. It's called a colostomy bag. And by the way, nothing I'm doing here is medical advice. I'm just talking about stuff I know, you know, and whatever. So it's just really, really interesting stuff. Now, Dr. Berry said that what's interesting is in the colostomy bag, what do you find? Well, you find nuts and you find seeds and you find fiber, you find lettuce, you find celery, you find all those other things because it just doesn't digest, all right? What you don't find in the colostomy bag is undigested pieces of meat. Very interesting. Undigested bits of egg. No, because it breaks down fully in the body. And that's really, really interesting. See, we're not made to eat a lot of vegetables. I'm not sure if you're aware of that. You know, plants are trying to kill you. You're not made to eat too many of them. Okay? Now, the problem here is, and what I'm trying to get to, is that a lot of our bad digestion comes from way too much fiber. Okay? It balls the system up and slows it right down. You think it's supposed to do the opposite, but it really doesn't. Okay, what are we talking about? Okay, we talk about food not chewed well, not too much fiber, and there's another thing that's a real big challenge, and that has to do with the fact that people snack too much. Okay, and when you're constantly snacking, only small amounts of food goes through your system at one time. Your body wants to move some bulk through. It wants to do that and process it well. So by just eating these little snacks all the time, you constantly have just little amounts of volume moving through your system. That can be a challenge. There's a lot to do with this. Okay, am I good to end now? What a topic, all right? The porcelain princess. You know, you get to where you start talking about digestion, and you talk about fasting, and you talk about weight loss, and ultimately this thing hangs around people's mind. Well, how's it going to affect my elimination? I heard somebody say in a lecture that the medieval rabbis have a song that they sing when they have a successful event in the bathroom. And it's like, well, okay, maybe that's the case, but you know what it's like when things aren't working very well for you, okay? So my name is Al Persohn. We have been looking at this subject of fasting and why you can't lose weight, things you need to know. Today I gave you a quick look at the colon. We looked at the ascending colon, the transverse colon, the descending colon, the sigmoid colon. We looked at what happens with the food that you eat, why you might feel a little bit toxic, if things are slow, why then you want to eat because you feel less toxic, and so on and whatever. And we talked about this particularly in the context of fasting, because this whole series is about fasting and weight loss. Today's topic has been fasting I feel flushed. Come back again soon. Don't hesitate to ask me questions. Not medical advice. I just hope you have a great day. God bless. Talk soon.